My wife told me to choose between her and my father after he discovered a secret from her past. And when I made my choice, I never expected the shocking truth she'd been hiding from all of us. They say marriage is about trust, compromise, and unconditional love. I thought I understood all that, until my wife handed me an impossible choice, her or my father. And the way she said it, there was no room for negotiation. I still remember that evening like it was yesterday. I had just gotten home from work, exhausted, ready to collapse on the couch and ignore the world for a few hours. But the moment I opened the door, I knew something was off. She was standing in the living room, arms crossed, her eyes locked on me like she had been waiting all day for this confrontation. "Sit down," she said, her voice quiet but cold. I hesitated, sensing the tension in the air. Okay, what's going on?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared at me like she was measuring every reaction, every heartbeat. Finally, she exhaled sharply and said, "I can't do this anymore. I need you to choose. Me or your father." I blinked. "Wait. What? Why are you saying that?" Her eyes softened for a fraction of a second, but then hardened again. "Because he knows something about my past, something I've tried to keep private. And he won't let it go every time he's around. It's like he's digging for it, testing me, judging me. I can't live like that, and I'm done asking you to side with me. You need to choose. Him or me." I sank into the couch, my mind racing. I had no idea what she was talking about. My father could be overbearing at times, sure, but he had never done anything like this before. And my wife, my beautiful, loving, intelligent wife, was acting like some kind of ultimatum was normal in a relationship. I don't even know what you're talking about," I said slowly. "What secret?" She shook her head. "It doesn't matter. All you need to do is decide. Are you with me or with him?" And that's when everything spiraled, because in that instant, I realized I didn't want to choose. I couldn't choose. My father was my dad. He had raised me, supported me, guided me, and my wife, she was the love of my life. How could anyone be asked to make a choice like that? I started, but she cut me off. "No excuses," she said. "Tonight, decide." I wanted to argue, to reason, to say that life didn't work like that. But she was standing there, unwavering, like she had been rehearsing this moment for months. I felt cornered, trapped, like I had walked into some emotional minefield without knowing it existed. So I did the only thing I could think of. I chose my father. It wasn't a decision made lightly. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg her to understand. But somewhere deep down, I knew she wouldn't. She was too proud, too angry, too set on this ultimatum. So I called her bluff. "I'm choosing my dad," I said, my voice shaking but firm. Her face went white, her mouth opened, then closed, like she couldn't find the words. And then she laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. "You think this is about him?" she said, her eyes blazing. "You think I was bluffing?" I froze. "Wait, what do you mean?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I've been hiding it from you because I wanted to see how far you'd go. I wanted to see if you'd choose me, even after knowing everything. Everything." That word hung in the air like a noose. What are you talking about?" I asked, my heart pounding. She took a deep breath. "When I was younger, before I met you, before I even considered marriage, I made a mistake, one mistake, a secret I've carried for years. Your father, he found out, and he's been trying to protect you from it." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. My father? Protecting me from my wife? What the hell had I married? "You knew?" I said, my voice barely audible. "You knew about him knowing and you didn't tell me?" She shook her head. "I wanted to. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. And now, you've chosen him over me, and I see, maybe you really would have." I wanted to scream, to argue, to demand answers. But at that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't even know the woman I thought I knew. There was a part of her life she had hidden from me, a part that apparently could ruin everything between us. And my father was the one keeping me safe, silently, like he had been all along. I need to know what this secret is," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Before I can even think about anything." She hesitated, her eyes glistening. "You might hate me." I need to hear it," I said, my hands trembling. And then she told me, years ago when she was barely out of college, she had gotten involved with a man who was not a good person. I won't go into all the details. Let's just say it involved a bad decision, some very poor judgment, and a situation that could have ended her life if it had gone wrong. She left that world behind, changed her life completely, and built a future she thought she deserved. But my father had somehow discovered it. He never said anything to me, never judged her openly. He just watched, quietly, protectively. I felt a mix of shock, relief, and confusion. She wasn't lying, and she wasn't hiding some ongoing betrayal. She had made a mistake, yes, but she had owned it, learned from it, and changed. And my father, my stubborn, overprotective, gruff father, had been the silent guardian all along. I don't hate you," I said, my voice cracking. I needed to know, and now I do." She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "So, you're not going to leave me?" I shook my head. "No, but next time we talk, we don't make each other choose like that. Ever." She nodded, and for the first time that night she smiled. A real smile. Not the tense, manipulative mask from before. The days that followed were awkward at first. I had to confront my father. Not in anger, but in gratitude. I had to tell him that I finally understood why he had acted the way he did, why he had kept his silence, why he had never interfered but always been there, and for the first time in years, I felt a deep, unspoken bond with him. As for my wife, things slowly went back to normal, though nothing would ever be exactly the same. There was a newfound honesty between us, a deeper understanding, but there was also a lingering reminder. Relationships are complicated, and love can be tested in ways you never expect. And sometimes, the person you think you're protecting the most is the one who ends up protecting you in ways you can't even see. Looking back now, I realize that night was a turning point. It was messy, emotional, and painful, but it taught me something crucial. Love isn't about ultimatums or impossible choices. It's about trust, forgiveness, and seeing the truth behind the fear. And for what it's worth, I'd choose both of them again, every single time. My father, who silently guarded me, and my wife, who made mistakes but never stopped being herself. Because life isn't about choosing between people. It's about seeing who's truly there for you when the world gets complicated. I thought that once the initial confrontation ended, things would slowly settle into some kind of normalcy. But life has a way of reminding you that even after the storm, there's still turbulence waiting just around the corner. The next morning, I woke up before her, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling like I was trying to solve a puzzle my mind refused to accept. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. I kept replaying the previous night's events in my head, trying to piece together everything she had said, everything my father had done silently all these years, and the impossible choice I had been forced to make. I couldn't stop thinking about her past, the mistakes she had made, the danger she had narrowly escaped, and how she had never told me because of fear of judgment, fear of losing me. And yet, she had presented me with an ultimatum. I felt a surge of anger bubbling up, even though I understood why she had acted that way. I realized that love, no matter how deep, isn't always logical. When she woke up, she was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, eyes red-rimmed, and looking fragile, in a way I had rarely seen. Normally she was confident, even a little stubborn, but now she seemed human, vulnerable, and I couldn't help but soften a little. I made you go through a lot last night," she said, not looking up. "I shouldn't have done that." I leaned against the counter. "Yeah, you shouldn't. But I get why you did it. You were scared, and honestly I probably needed that push, even if it didn't feel like it." Her hands trembled slightly around the coffee mug. "Do you really forgive me?" I walked over and took her hand. "Forgive? I don't even know where to start, but yes, I forgive you. And I think we both learned something important. Secrets, fear, they don't help anyone." She looked up at me, tears brimming again, but this time they weren't of anger or frustration. They were relief, and for the first time since I had walked into that living room the night before, I felt like we could breathe. Over the next few days, things were tense, in an unfamiliar, quiet way. We avoided bringing up the past, pretending everything was normal, but under the surface, there was an unspoken awareness. The foundation of our relationship had been tested, shaken almost to breaking, but it hadn't collapsed. I spent more time with my father, trying to process everything from a different angle. I sat with him one evening after dinner, quietly, letting the sounds of the neighborhood fade around us. "Dad," I started cautiously, I need to ask you something. About her. About what you knew." He looked up from his newspaper, his expression unreadable. "Go ahead. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you warn me directly?" He sighed and put the paper down. "I wanted to, but I also knew some lessons aren't learned by being told. I had to see how you'd handle it, and maybe I didn't want to shake your trust in her before it even had a chance." I nodded, absorbing the weight of his words. He wasn't being manipulative. He was being protective in the only way he knew how. And in that moment, I understood something crucial about my father. His love had always been quiet, steady, and sometimes painfully indirect. But just when I thought the storm had passed, life reminded me that drama has a habit of circling back when you least expect it. It started with a phone call. My wife's old acquaintance, or maybe a ghost from her past, reached out. A man she had known briefly during that dangerous period, someone she had assured me she had cut off completely. But now he was back, sending subtle messages, harmless at first, but the tone carried a weight that made my stomach turn. One night, she came home from work, exhausted, and collapsed onto the couch. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands shook slightly. "It's him," she said quietly. "He's back." I knelt beside her, trying to mask my own fear. "What do you mean, back? What's he doing? He's reaching out," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I thought I was done with that part of my life. I thought it was behind me. But he's trying to, I don't know, manipulate me. I'm scared." I pulled her into a hug, feeling the tremor in her body. "We'll handle this. Together. You're not alone in this anymore." But the truth was, we had no idea what we were walking into. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. Messages turned into emails, emails into vague threats. And suddenly, our lives felt like a chess game where every move was carefully watched, analyzed, and countered. And then the confrontation happened. I was home early that day, fixing a leaky faucet, when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in his late 30s, sharp-featured, confident, but with an intensity that made me instinctively step back. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice tight. "I need to speak with your wife," he said, eyes flicking to the house behind me. "She's not here," I lied, hoping to buy time. He smirked. "I'll wait." I felt my heart racing. I shut the door and immediately called her. "He's here. The one from your past. He's at our door." She answered instantly, her voice trembling but strong. "Stay calm. Don't open the door. I'll be there in 5 minutes." 5 minutes felt like an eternity. I kept checking the door, imagining the worst. But when she arrived, she handled it with a poise I hadn't seen in weeks. "I'm sorry for this," she said as she walked past me to confront him. "But I won't be manipulated. Leave." There was a tense silence, then a heated exchange of words I couldn't fully hear. I stayed back, gripping the kitchen counter, feeling powerless. And then he left. We locked the door and collapsed onto the couch, both of us shaking but relieved. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in days, I felt something that resembled peace. That night, lying in bed, I realized just how much had changed. We had survived an emotional ultimatum, a hidden past, and an unexpected threat. And yet, I loved her more than ever, not in spite of her mistakes, but because of them. Because she had faced them, confessed them, and still chosen to stand by me. I thought about my father again, about the quiet way he had protected me all these years, about the lessons in patience, in trust, and in seeing beyond the surface. I realized that love doesn't always come wrapped in perfect timing or clear paths. Sometimes it's messy, complicated, and frightening, but still worth holding on to. Weeks turned into months, the threat faded, the messages stopped, and life slowly returned to what felt like normal. But we both knew we had crossed a threshold. One that changed the way we viewed each other, the way we approached challenges, and the way we loved. We started opening up more, talking about fears we had buried, secrets we had kept, and mistakes we had made. We laughed, cried, and argued like normal people do. But there was a new layer of honesty, a bond forged in fire. One evening I caught my wife in the kitchen, laughing over something trivial on her phone. I watched her for a moment, remembering the tense, cold stare she had given me that night when she demanded I choose. I shook my head, smiling to myself. "I'm glad we made it through," I said softly. She looked up, smiling, her eyes warm. "Me too. I was scared you'd leave." "I never would," I replied, pulling her into a hug. "Even when things got hard, even when you made me choose, I never would." She rested her head against my chest, and for the first time, I felt completely at peace. Not because the past was perfect, or because life had suddenly become easy, but because we had faced it together. And that, I realized, was what love really was. Not blind devotion, not unquestioning loyalty, but the messy, complicated, beautiful willingness to fight for someone when the world makes it hard, and to trust that they'll fight for you too. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't before. Life is full of impossible choices, secrets, and mistakes, but the people who stand by you, the people who protect you quietly, and the people who love you fiercely, they are worth everything. So yes, I chose my father, but more importantly, I chose my wife. And in doing so, I learned that love isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about understanding, forgiveness, and holding on even when the storm seems too strong. Because at the end of the day, that's what keeps us human. That's what keeps us connected. And that's what keeps us alive in a world that constantly tests us. And honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing.